term novella has many pre-existing connotations for an Australian audience. Meaning romance, not only does it encapsulate the exotic Spanish language, but it also evokes an elegant fairy tale-like imagery. Through media, movies, and popular culture in general, we've learned to associate the Spanish language, and indeed the Spanish culture, with somewhat of a romantic ideal. Being heavily influenced by music and striding tangos, it is portrayed in Western media as an elegant and elusive cultural landscape. The fairy tale component is also important, as this is a commonality amongst our target audience, and there is a sense of safety in the familiar. Working with the assumption they've grown up with Disney's princess characters, we will focus on selling that familiar grace. This, in conjunction with novella's ultimate meaning as a prose story, further justifies its use as our perfume's brand name. Novellas are laced with rhythm and sophistication, which correlate to the image we're selling. Novella is more an expression than merely a word, though, which is thoroughly suited to this context and the audience to whom our perfume is being marketed. We will focus on the young, professional, trend-conscious 21 to 35-year-old female demographic. Although this is a large age span to consider, popular culture again plays a role in that these young women generally aspire to exude the sophistication of characters in television shows such as Gossip Girl. The success of these multi-million-dollar franchises has depended on women within our audience parameters, longing to emulate their young, wealthy characters. Our advertisement will reflect the target consumer's idyllic and elegant desires to maximize capital growth and eventually attain brand loyalty.
The idea of the ad is to create a modern-day fantasy that young females can connect to, or more so, long for. The scene is set in a lavish masquerade ball. From across the room, a striking young male and female meet eyes and instantly connect. When the night is nearly over, the man searches for his princess to remove her mask and express his love. He can't find her, so he races out to the footpath of a busy New York street out the front of the ballroom, only to find that she is leaving in a taxi. The next day is followed by the dull repetition of people living 9-to-5 lives, waiting for their coffee. The scene starts with the male reading a paper in the cafe. It is at this moment the female character walks past the man, both of them oblivious. Suddenly the male looks up and can't help but notice it's the same woman from the night before. This shows the meaning of the ad, that the fantasy can be real within the constraints of daily life. The masquerade is set in a large, extravagant, classy ballroom. The lighting will be romantic and dim, like candlelight. In the background there will be such furniture as chandeliers, which connotes extravagance, and an ice sculpture of a glass slipper, which will resonate with meaning with Cinderella. The actual masquerade is a common scene of a romantic occasion. The male and female's eye contact signifies the connection and chemistry that there is between them. The mask resembles the fantasy is attainable to everybody. You can put your own face behind the mask. As the man is rushing out looking for his mysterious counterpart, he is displaying his desire, passion, and deep longing to announce his attraction to her. The image in this slide of Leonardo DiCaprio as Romeo captures the emotion the male is feeling in the scene perfectly. This scene is set in a cafe in Times Square, one of the busiest places in the world. It is set in such a place to resemble the magnitude of daily life. Getting a coffee is something people can relate to work. The male reading the paper over the top of the continuous hustle of the city resembles the disconnection and dullness of his routine. When the male looks up to the woman from the night before, it resembles that the fantasy of the night before is continued.
John Fiske defines semiotics as a construction of signs which produce meanings. In the novella advertisement, the use of signs such as the mask and the slipper ice sculpture are a physical representation of fantasy and fairy tale. These signs signify mystery, romance, and youthful sophistication. These attributes are wanted by a large part of the female population, specifically those within our target audience ages. Within the coffee shop scene, additional signs are utilized, such as the newspaper and the coffee. These signify reality and illustrate the stark difference between the life they could be living and their everyday one. With the location and time of the scenes being modern-day New York City, the viewers are able to place themselves in a contemporary fairy tale of their own. Jason Bainbridge mentions context and the way in which audiences locate the text. With the novella ad being a narrative context, the significance of this busy location works well with the idea of fate, and that maybe fantasy can be an attainable reality after all. According to Gail McLaughlin, framing is built on the basis of experience in the real world. The novella advertisement maintains an extra-textual framing. Our intended audience is presupposed to be knowledgeable in fantasy and fairy tale endings, as well as the monotony of reality. For them, our idea of a sophisticated slip from their everyday life is recognized and will be desired and sought after. This concept of passion branding is considered by Alan Mitchell to be one of the new successful models followed by companies today. The lifestyle of our intended audience is one of desires. She desires to be noticed and engaged. She wants to live in her fantasy and find love. To these women, we are selling the idea of a modern-day happily ever after. It is different from a typical fairy tale because there is no predetermined princess. By keeping the faces of the characters obstructed, viewers are able to put themselves in the scenario, believing that they could be the main character of this story. What makes novella different from other perfume is the twist of offering not only a nice scent and romance, but an air of classiness and exciting mystery of what's to come. Essentially, this ad conveys a message of elegant escape.